Thank you very much. Thank you, Rob. Thank you. Well, it's great to be here. Thank you for coming to this session. We're going to have a lot of fun. This is an awkward session because somebody, no offense to Revenue North, but somebody changed the title of my presentation. So actually my presentation is actually called High Tech plus High Touch equals Profitable Relationships. And then after the colon, it's supposed to say how to blend old school relationship skills with new school social media for huge sales success. And at that moment, everybody stood up and walked out, right? But it's still going to accomplish the same exact thing. But what they had asked me to speak on, when I actually looked at the program this morning, I said, this is not the actual title, but we can make it work. So why did I share that with you? I have no idea. You wouldn't have known otherwise. So. And you still don't care, exactly. My name is Kevin Knebl. Just real quick, I'm very blessed. I get to speak all around the world on a weekly basis. I speak all over the U.S. and internationally. Over 90 plus, probably 95% of all the speaking engagements I deliver are not in the state of Colorado. So Colorado audiences are the hardest audience because sometimes people know you, right? Has anybody in the room ever heard me speak before? Why would you come back? There's like 5 or 6 or 7. Okay, so thank you for letting me know. Laugh at my joke. Frank, laugh at my jokes like it's the first time you've heard them, right? Okay, so we're going to have a lot of fun in here. I'm going to start off just by saying this is not a one-night stand. This is not skid marks in the parking lot. This is not you coming to hear Kevin Knebl's presentation and then I'm off to where I'm off and you're off to where you're off. I am extending to you my hand and saying, after we get done today, if I say anything that makes you think or ponder or question or anything, I want you to know that I want to be a resource to you. So I'm putting my hand out in friendship and saying, if you have questions about any of this, it could be tonight, tomorrow, next week, next lifetime, whenever, call me, email me, whatever you want to do. If I can help you, I give you my word as a gentleman that I will take, I'll take whatever time or energy I can to help you out. So take notes. But understand, this isn't just like, boom, and then we never meet each other again. By the way, I don't do transactions. I do relationships. Even when I go to the 7-Eleven to get a cup of coffee, I treat it as a relationship, and I develop a conversation with the person that's getting me the coffee, okay? So I deal in relationships, not transactions, so if I can ever help you, please let me know. I'm going to cover a lot of stuff very, very quickly, but I think it makes sense to give you a very quick background on me because it paints a lot of relevance to what I'm going to cover here today. I am originally from New Jersey. Are there any East Coast witness relocation people here? Okay, great. Jersey girl, I love it. Where in Jersey are you from? Nice. I lived in Whippany, right next to Morristown. My wife is from Randolph, okay? So I am originally from New Jersey. What I used to do for a living years ago was I used to be a piano player in New York City. I never went to school for business. I cannot spell MBA. I cannot. I absolutely assure you of that. I am a right-brained, artsy-fartsy, creative piano player. And I can tell you, if you are a young single guy, and you can play Gershwin, Cole Porter, Jerome Kearns, Rodgers and Hammerstein, Irving Berlin, Billy Joel, Bruce Hornsby. It's a great gig, right? So some of the women got that. So what happened was, I had a great time. I met my wife, Karen, because I was supposed to play piano at her wedding. Absolutely true. I don't have time for the whole story, but I will be here through the afternoon, and if you want to buy me a Merlot at the bar later, I'll tell you the story, okay? So what happened was I met my wife, Karen. She never married that loser. And what happened was I got married to Karen, and I figured out very early that late nights and smoky bars and all the things that go along with that don't lend themselves well to a family life. So I knew I needed to get a job. But the problem was this was the early 90s. Anybody remember the early 90s? Early 90s, no internet, no career builder, no Monster, no LinkedIn, none of this other stuff, okay? So what's your name? Annie. Annie won't remember this. But back in the early 90s, we used to have this ancient artifact. Annie, listen to this. This is insane. They would cut down trees. They'd flatten them out. They'd print words on them, and then you'd buy it. Right? As a matter of fact, I brought an antique with me, right? So you would actually buy this thing, and then you'd throw it away. And the news was old, right? I mean, they printed this morning. A lot could have happened between this morning and now, right? So they had this thing called the newspaper. Now, Annie, back then, when you needed to find a job, if you were an unskilled person like me, other than piano playing, you opened up something called the classifieds, or the help wanteds. So there I am looking at the help wanteds, and I found it because there's no jobs for piano players, but there is a job you can get no matter where in the world you go. It's called 100% commission sales. It's also known as crawling over barbed wire naked, okay? It is a tough way to make a living. Is it okay if I just talk Jersey in here today? Has anybody ever heard of the whole right brain, left brain thing? I've done all the testing that's ever been invented. There is not a left brain cell in my body, okay? I can go down to Joseph A. Banks and get a nice suit and get my strategically placed Mont Blanc and get my new Johnston Murphys and have my monogram on my cufflink and all that kind of stuff. But if you hang out with me for 5 minutes, you're going to pretty much figure out I'm a hippie in a suit, okay? I am right-brained off the charts. So I'm looking in here and I find this job, 100% commission sales, and I'm scared. I mean, I am like, this is so far outside of my comfort zone, a sex change would have been more in my comfort zone, okay? This was terrifying, but I love my wife. So love makes you do funny things. So I'm willing to do what's uncomfortable because I want to provide for my family. So I get this job at 100% commission sales. Cut my 18-inch long hair. Some of you were trying to visualize that. My hair was this long. Get a suit. I borrowed my friend's funeral suit, by the way. I didn't even have money for a suit. Went to work for the man, got a briefcase, and I was scared. I was Imodium Depends scared, okay? I was scared. I was literally throwing up in the bushes outside of sales calls before I would go in because that's how scared I was. But thank God I had a mentor, Paul. I love Paul. I wish Paul was still here. I love Paul. Paul took me aside and he said, Kev, let me tell you something. You seem like a nice guy. Most people that get in business and get in sales, what they do is they run out and they get the Tom Hopkins, Zig Ziglar, Brian Tracy, Jeffrey Gitomer books, and they become closing ninjas. And there's nothing wrong with those books. You should read those books. But he said, first, you should go down to Barnes & Noble and you should get a book that was written back in the 1930s by a guy named Dale. Anybody know where I'm going with this? How to Win Friends and Influence People. This is the actual copy I bought in October of 1992. It comes with me everywhere. It's highlighted, written in the margins. I'm not opposed to Kindle. My book is on Kindle, but I like paper. I'm an 8-track player in a world of iPods, okay? I am old school, baby. I like paper. I like how it smells. I can kiss it, right? I can write on it. So you can keep your Kindle. I like my paper. Yes, I've got a copy of this on my iPhone, but I like paper, okay? So he said, go get that book and go study it. He didn't tell me to read it. He told me to study it. And I have a Kevinism that I use all the time. Don't read books. Study books. Read menus and street signs, but study books. So I took that book and I studied it, and I went from never having sold a thing in my life. 3 years later, I'm the top salesperson in the world for an international consulting company with 320 salespeople in 11 countries around the world. I'm not telling you this to tell you that I'm God's gift to selling and I can sell ice cream to Eskimos and press hard 3 copies, bottom one's yours, price goes up on Monday, or any of that crap. I'm here to tell you this because I'm like you. How many people in the room are a business owner? Put your hands up. How many people are in sales? It's all of us, right? And if you don't think you're in sales, it means you probably work for somebody, which there's nothing wrong with that. But I will kindly remind you that every day that you still have that job, you are selling your value to your employer. So you're in sales, whether you know it or not. So I became a pretty good salesperson. And then in the mid-90s, my clients started asking me, my clients were typically small to mid-sized CEOs. They started asking if I would come back and train their salespeople to sell the way I had sold them. Now, I want you to process what I just said there. Because most people in sales, as soon as they close that deal, there are skid marks in the parking lot, right? And leading up to closing the sale, they have what I refer to as commission breath, right? They're getting pretty, excited about the sale, and they do goofy things, but as soon as they close that sale, they're gone. Homie, don't play that. I don't deal in transactions, I deal in relationships. So when I don't close sales, I open relationships, okay? So when I would have a new client, I would visit my client on a regular basis. But Kevin, you didn't get paid for that. I know. But Kevin, service is supposed to pick up when you close the sale. I don't care, it's about relationships. So when I built relationships with my clients, they would say, will you come back and train our salespeople to sell like you sold? And I said, I don't have to be a trainer. Will you pay me? They say, yeah. I said, great, I'll do it. Right? So I became a trainer and a speaker and blah, blah, blah. When they started inventing social media in the 2000s, in the early 2000s, I was an extremely early adopter on social media, not because I'm a computer geek. I am 48 years old. Actually, yesterday was my half birthday. My birthday is on December 17th. Yesterday was June 17th. 6 months from now is my birthday. My daughter said yesterday, hey, happy half birthday, Dad. I didn't even know what that meant, right? I'm 48 years old. I have never in my life, as of this moment, right now, ever created a PowerPoint presentation or an Excel spreadsheet. I don't know how. I don't want to know how. I'd rather gargle with battery acid, okay? But when they started inventing social media, I looked at it and I said, this is important. This is going to be big. Because everything up till then about me was about relationships and networking. When I started looking at things like LinkedIn, I said, oh, this is like networking on steroids. And all I started doing was applying all the stuff I had been learning and teaching and living offline, and I started moving it online. And lo and behold, it works extremely well because social media has nothing to do with technology. It has everything to do with relationships. You don't have to be a transmission repairman to drive a car. And there are a lot of transmission repairmen that couldn't drive a race car. Just because somebody's on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, or whatever the social media channel of the month or flavor of the month is, does not in any way mean that they have any understanding of how to build, enhance, and enrich relationships, okay? So I started going online with all the stuff I had been doing offline, and then finally about 4 or 5 years ago, I was getting so many requests to do speaking and training engagements that I left my corporate sales job. So the reason I give you the backstory is because I want you to know, can I put a disclaimer in here? Because I closed a lot of bars in the 80s, so sometimes I don't remember things in the right order. So I closed a lot of bars, I lost a lot of brain cells, and unlike Bill Clinton, who swears he didn't, I inhaled deeply, okay? And frequently. So a disclaimer here would be this. If I say anything that sounds very abrupt or blunt, it's not because I'm trying to beat you up, it's because I love you enough to tell you the truth. Oh, did I use the L word? I use the L and the G word all the time because I don't have a business life and a personal life, I have a life, okay? So I respect you enough to tell you the truth. Most of the so-called social media gurus, by the way, show me another industry that people refer to themselves as guru or serial entrepreneurs. When you use words like serial, there's one other thing that comes to mind when somebody is a serial something, right? I always, like if you go to my LinkedIn profile, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, whatever, nowhere do I call myself a guru, master of time, space, dimension, or any of these other pompous titles people come up with. I always say it's kind of like being a lady. If you have to tell people you are, you might not be, right? But if other people are calling you that, if your clients are calling you that and referring you tons of business, you really don't have to call yourself that. So let me just call a spade a spade. Has anybody noticed that about 99.9% of all the people on the earth that are running around the world talking about social media come from marketing and IT backgrounds? No offense to marketing and IT people. Do not read into what I'm saying here. But just because somebody comes from marketing and IT does not mean that they could sell their way out of a wet paper bag. So if you're going to learn how to use high tech blended with high touch for massive sales success, common sense would say somebody who sold something better be the one teaching it. Otherwise, it's what I refer to as theory, okay? I don't deal in theory. I deal in practical knowledge. So everything I'm about to teach you is just practical. It works. You're not a guinea pig. I'm not going to experiment on Stephanie and we're going to see if it works for you, Stephanie. So now I run around the world and I teach this stuff. So that's the backstory. Let me say this bluntly. High tech is nice, but high touch is everything. Don't be bamboozled or fooled by the people that go, oh, well, I've got 50 million connections on LinkedIn and I got 20 million people over here on Facebook and I got all these other people here on Twitter. I will nod politely, but I think Jerry Maguire kind of had it right in 1998. Show me the money. Otherwise, it's just ego, right? Oh, I got all these followers. Yeah, but you're broke, right? But you feel good about yourself because you got all these followers, right? But the feel good ain't going to pay the bills. So it's really about, see, anybody could stand in front of a room, any idiot could do this, and many idiots do. Could stand in front of a room and say, let me show you how to make a LinkedIn profile, and let me show you how to send out a tweet on Twitter, and let me show you how to create a Facebook fan page. Can we just agree that that's technical stuff? You could outsource that to India for $5 an hour. The art, and it is an art, the art is how do you convert anonymous online people into offline relationships and revenue. That's an art, okay? And that's what we're here talking about today. So, this has been on sleep for a while, so it's going to take me a couple of seconds to pull it up. It's kind of like an old man. So let me just take this a couple of seconds here. Come on. My wife says that I have a sometimes annoying habit. By the way, when your wife tells you you have a sometimes annoying habit, it is code for an always annoying habit, okay? But my wife says I have a sometimes annoying habit of reducing things to the absurd. So that at moments it might sound like I'm circling the barn, but I'm not. I'm really going somewhere with what I'm saying. I will absolutely tell you that everything I know and everything I've learned over the last 20 or so years in sales, networking, social media, and all this other stuff is summarized in that one slide. I'll unpack this over the next 45 minutes. But that one slide, if there's only one thing you remember, that's it. So here it is. In that slide, relationships are everything. If you doubt me, no offense, you have all the evidence to prove you doubt me. Because you have a history of dead bodies in the wake behind you. And getting toward the end of the month, they're trying to hit quota and doing goofy things instead of keeping your integrity and adding value, okay? It's a lot easier to build relationships with people that want to send you tons of referrals and you can build mutually beneficial win-win relationships with than starting every month on the 1st knowing you got to hit quota again this month and you're scared crapless, you know. I don't know if that's a word. So, number one, you need to have a method to build positive relationships. Method implies not winging it, okay? Most people don't have a method to do this. And by the way, I personally believe that every human being is a beautiful divine creation of God designed for greatness. Most people know this when they're little, but by the time they get to about 7 or 8 or 9 or 10, they've pretty much had it beaten out of them one way or another, and they don't get a lot of support to this on a daily basis. I believe that you are totally designed for massive success. I'm not trying to beat up the U.S. education system, but I think it's ironic that a lot of stuff that we can remember 40, 50 years later, hey, who wrote, Catcher in the Rye, J.D. Salinger, AU is gold on a periodic chart, is never going to put a nickel in your pocket. It'll make you feel good on Jeopardy when you watch Jeopardy at 7 o'clock at night, or you get the yellow wedge on the Trivial Pursuit game. But the most important stuff you could ever learn, we don't even teach it hardly. You get taught at home, okay? So you need a method to build positive relationships. In a more and more interconnected, over-caffeinated, hyper-competitive, Mach 5 with your receding hairline on fire, crackberry, blackberry world, it does not serve anybody any good to be either be or hanging around with Debbie or Donald Downer. I am not trying to tell you to modify or completely radically modify your personality and be the happiest weirdo in the room. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying it'll serve you well. If you only do this for financial reasons, choose to be a little bit more positive. I think it's ironic that some of the stuff that our parents and grandparents told us years ago is actually more true now than it was when they told it to us. And I'll prove it. Did anybody ever have a parent or grandparent that said this to you? You know, Frank, if you don't have something nice to say, don't say anything at all. You know, in 1965, that made sense. You know, in 2013, that makes more sense. Why does it make more sense? Because there are 7 billion human beings on Earth. There are 4 billion of these. Not so smartphone, right? You want to hear the gross part of the stat? 7 billion humans, 4 billion of these, there's only 1.3 billion toothbrushes on Earth. So we've actually entered a time in history where people are more comfortable doing this and this than this. That's gross. That's gross. But now, in the old days, if Frank came over and started bitching and moaning and complaining about stuff, only I had to hear it. Now they have things like Facebook. My boss is a jerk. My wife hates me. Life sucks and it's getting worse. You know, anybody go on Facebook? By the way, I love Facebook. But you don't have to broadcast the crap that's going on in your life on Facebook. If you don't have something nice to say, just don't say anything, right? Just shut your, I'm from Jersey. You know, the nice way to say it, if you don't have something nice to say, don't say anything. In Jersey, it's, hey, if you don't have something nice to say, shut your friggin' mouth, right? And friggin's not a swear, it's a New Jersey term of endearment, right? So just keep your mouth closed. Number 2, you need to have a clear and compelling social media presence. Now, some of you heard me say something different than what I just said. Some of you heard me say, you need to become a social media expert. Don't put words in my mouth, it's unsanitary. I did not say that. But I did say you have to have a clear and compelling social media presence because I have this new thing called the internet that I hear is going to be pretty big. Disclaimer. If anything in this presentation even remotely resembles stalking, you have misunderstood me. If I want to find out something about Stephanie, and I look at Stephanie's LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter accounts, I am not stalking. I am looking at the information that she is broadcasting on the world's largest electronic bathroom wall, also known as the internet. Okay? So common sense would say, and by the way, common sense should be called uncommon sense, right? But common sense would say, if you don't want me to know it, baby, don't post it on your Facebook wall, okay? Actually, the ironic thing is in the old days, we used to call this due diligence in market research. If you were going to research your competitors or your ideal prospects, that's just a sign of intelligence. So nowadays, I'm going to show you in a couple minutes how to blend old school with new school. But you need to have a clear and compelling social. It's not a nice to have, it's a need to have. Because you could be the best person in the world at what you do, but if I go on the internet and I type your name in and I don't see anything, you're still the best at what you do, just nobody knows about it, right? So it doesn't serve you well to be fishing in the Sahara. So you need to have a clear and compelling social media presence. And number three, you need to have an understanding of how to best use old school and new school technology to build, enhance, maintain, and enrich relationships. Now, when I use words like technology, don't be fooled. Yes, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, social media, but let me remind you of a couple things. Answering the phone instead of letting it go to voicemail is a pretty nice technology. Almost nobody does it anymore. You'll completely differentiate yourself when you actually answer the phone. When you're on your way to an appointment and you intentionally build in an extra 15 minutes into your schedule to swing by Starbucks and run into your client's office unannounced, or your prospect's office, and go, hey Frank, I was just swinging by, I'm on my way to this appointment over here, but I got you a frappa maka laka chaka taka waka, I'll call you next week, man, see you, bye. All right. You know what he's thinking? Holy crap, nobody's ever done that before. Differentiate yourself, taking the time, making the time, to actually get up a few minutes early every morning, once a month, and send a handwritten note. Not War and Peace, but just, hey Frank, thinking about you, hope you're doing great, Kev, and dropping it in the mail to your best prospects and your best clients. Who does that anymore? I do it, but not too many people do it. Can I tell you? The people that you want to do business with, they ain't printing out the emails you send them and tacking them next to their computer screens. But you drop them a card in the mail, you'll go by that office 5 years from now, it'll be taped to the computer monitor. So it's top of mind awareness without being a stalker, spammer, or pest, right? So it's really a combination of old school plus new school. 4 fundamental selling truths. I'm going to run through this very, very quickly. This is common sense, but common sense is uncommon. In the world of sales, and we're all in sales, where meaningful dialogue is existent, then it doesn't feel like selling. This is common sense. You could file this under duh, okay? I'm not a big fan of the word social media because in my limited brain cells, media is a one-way monologue. TV is media, radio is media, billboards are media. People are tired of being talked at. They want to talk with. So I'm a big fan of social networking, but not social media, okay? So it's about dialogue. If you're in sales and you've done well in sales, you've figured out that it's not me talking about me and my great product and how it's going to help you and me. It's the more I can talk to you about you for multiple reasons. Number one, to show you that I have a sincere interest in you. Number two, the more your mouth is open, the more your brain is on parade. And the more I'm going to learn about ways that I can add value to your life. So this isn't about manipulation. By the way, manipulation is when I'm trying to convince Jackie to do something for my purposes. Influence is when I'm trying to help Jackie come to a mutually beneficial outcome. That's a whole different game, okay? Most people are really dealing in manipulation because they think that's the way it works, but it really doesn't work that way. It's just that they've been taught that way. So number 2, where trust and rapport are strong, selling pressure appears weak. Of course. The converse of that is also true. Where trust and rapport appear weak, selling pressure appears strong. So everything I teach really is about how can you build a know, like, trust relationship people as quickly as possible without having people feel like they're being railroaded or rushed through a relationship process. But how can you touch them so that when they think of you, they think good things, not bad things, okay? So if you keep this in mind, it applies tremendously to social media. It's not just about collecting followers and connections and all this other stuff. It's how do you maximize the relationships and the connections that you have. In that book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, every chapter is summarized in one sentence. The first 3 chapters are called Fundamental Techniques in Handling People. Number 1, don't criticize, condemn, or complain. Number 2, give honest, sincere appreciation. Number 3, arousing the other person an eager want. The next 6 chapters are called How to Get People to Like You. You think that might be a good life skill? Number 1, become genuinely interested in other people. Number 2, smile. Number 3, remember that a person's name is to that person the sweetest and most important sound in any language. Number 4, be a good listener, encourage others, talk about themselves. Number 5, talk in terms of the other person's interest. Number 6, make the other person feel important and do it sincerely. File what I'm about to tell you in the TMI category. Every morning when I get up, I don't care where in the world I am, every morning when I get up, when I get in that shower, out loud, in my own voice, I recite out loud from memory all 30 chapter summaries from How to Win Friends and Influence People. Now, it took me years to learn that. Don't think I learned that overnight. But do you think that serves me well? Anybody ever heard of a book called Think and Grow Rich? If you go to page 54 in Think and Grow Rich, there's actually a thing called the self-confidence formula. It takes up a page and a half. If you actually do what he tells you to do, he tells you to recite that self-confidence formula from memory out loud every morning. I actually do it. Self-confidence formula first. I know that I have the ability to achieve the object of my definite purpose in life. I can go through the whole thing. It'll take me 5 minutes to do it, and I'm not going to take the 5 minutes because it's a 50-minute presentation. But the reason most people don't succeed in life to the level they can succeed isn't because they don't have a piece of information they need about their industry or whatever. It's because they don't believe that they're either worthy or whatever. It's their self-limiting beliefs. It's their self-doubt. By the way, if you have any issue with this or think it might be an issue, contact that man right there, Earl Kemper. The man's a genius. He's helped people make millions and millions and bajillions of dollars, okay? And he'll help you get that straight. But it's really about getting your head straight, about figuring out, because once you get that straight, oh man, does it get sweet. It is, okay, high cotton. You are a mosquito in a nudist colony of opportunity, okay? So, I'm going to jump out of here because I don't have time for the rest of this. Okay. And I never give the same presentation twice. I never do. I've never in my life given the same presentation twice. So I never know what I'm going to say. If anybody wants these slides, just email me, kevin@kevinknebl.com. I'll give it to you. Yes, I'm aware of IP and intellectual property. I just find in a more and more interconnected world, the more I give away, the more it comes back, pressed down, shaken together, overflowing. It's crazy. So if you want any of this, just tell me you want it. But I think it would serve us well for the remaining time that I have, which isn't a lot, for me to actually show you a couple things as it relates to social media. Would that be okay? Yes. Okay. For today's purposes, yes, I do 4-hour boot camps on Twitter. And yes, I do 4-hour boot camps on Facebook. And yes, I do 4-hour boot camps on LinkedIn. According to this clock, what do I got? 20 minutes left? 25? This ain't going to be a 4-hour boot camp, okay? So it doesn't make sense for me to take a few minutes on LinkedIn and a few minutes on Twitter and a few minutes on Facebook and all that. Why don't I just take, because my experience has been most people don't realize what they have their hands on with LinkedIn. Let me just see by a show of hands. How many people in the room have a LinkedIn account? Okay. How many people in the room have a LinkedIn account because somebody sent you an invitation to get on LinkedIn? It could have been yesterday. It could have been 6 years ago. You got on LinkedIn, you immediately forgot your password, you hear it's kind of a cool site, you like watching the cool kitty videos on Facebook, you know you should be doing something on LinkedIn. Is there anybody in the room like that? Anybody? A couple of honest people, okay? So my experience is this, because I often ask people, do you know how to use LinkedIn? And people say, yeah, I know how to use LinkedIn. And I say, let me rephrase the question, and please understand I love you when I ask this question. If you can show me that your use of LinkedIn put at least $100,000 in your pocket last year, how many people really feel like they know how to use LinkedIn? And most people don't. And again, everybody's a beautiful divine creation of God designed for greatness. This is not a value judgment on a human being, whether you know how to use LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitter, right? It's just nobody's taking you by the hands on how to do it, okay? So again, everything that I said up to this moment was about relationships, networking, adding massive value, all that. All I'm going to do here is just show you a couple simple little things on LinkedIn, but understand I'm just scratching the tip of the iceberg of what could be done. But let me re-emphasize before I jump on here, I don't care how much you know about LinkedIn. I don't care if you can show me 52 ways to leverage LinkedIn groups for blah, 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 blah. If it doesn't put the revenue in the pocket It's ego. It's just, hey man, I'm like a Twitter expert. Okay, great. Show me the money. Okay? So if I could encourage you to adopt a new habit starting tomorrow morning, unlike all those self-professed social media gurus who are broke, but they sure know a lot about LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter, here's what I suggest you do. For every moment starting tomorrow that you spend on any form of social media whatsoever, spend a corresponding minute in a book like How to Win Friends and Influence People, Think and Grow Rich, or The Magic of Thinking Big by David Schwartz. If you will do that, your efforts as it relates to social media will be exponentially more profitable than you just trying to be active in a LinkedIn group or get on somebody's Friday friend group on Twitter or whatever. Because what you're doing is you're really not focusing on the technology, you're focusing on the relationships. Does that make sense? This is the audience participation part. This is yes, this is no. Okay, good. So again, most people don't really use LinkedIn that much. I'm not going to say right or wrong. I'm just going to say, does it serve you well? Right? So LinkedIn, let's talk about what it is. As of this moment right now, 225 million users worldwide. The average LinkedIn user is over 40 years old and earns over $100,000 a year. So this is a desirable demographic, okay? Your LinkedIn profile is your electronic digital business card. By the way, your website is not. There's nothing wrong with your website, but let's just call a spade a spade. Your website is designed to convert leads into sales. Your LinkedIn profile is your LinkedIn profile is too, but there's a different way to do it. But your LinkedIn profile is your electronic digital business card. Because what you do now or what you do 5 years from now, it doesn't matter. Your profile is going to follow you for the rest of your life, or at least until they build something to overtake LinkedIn. And as a McGraw-Hill and Wiley published author on this subject, I can assure you there's nothing on the near horizon. So LinkedIn's going to be around for a while, okay? So it serves you well to have a good LinkedIn profile. Can I tell you, I've seen a lot of LinkedIn profiles. Between me, Alan Case, Mike O'Neill back there, and a handful of other people, we've probably looked at more LinkedIn profiles than anybody else on earth. I can assure you that the vast majority of people on LinkedIn, even though they're great human beings, their LinkedIn profiles look like they were slapped together at 4:30 in the morning after an all-night tequila bender, okay? And I'm not putting down tequila. I'm all for tequila, okay? But the problem is, it doesn't serve you well to go into a business meeting or a job interview or whatever looking like you were up all night long doing Jell-O shots, right? Annie could be the best in the world at what she does, but if she shows up to a business meeting with, a Metallica t-shirt with a stain on it, ripped shorts and bedhead, she's sending the wrong message. I think it's ironic also that some of the things that our parents and grandparents told us years ago, another thing is even more true now. Anybody ever have a parent or grandparent that used this line on you? You know, Annie, you only have one chance to make a good first impression. Exactly. That's more true today than it was in 1975 because of smartphones, right? So you could be the best person in the world at what you do, Mr. Oppenheim, but if I look at your LinkedIn profile and you look like a dope, what am I supposed to think? Oh, well, maybe he's not as bad as his LinkedIn profile. So again, I told you in the beginning, I love you. I'm not trying to beat you up. I love you enough to tell you the truth. You have one chance to make a good first impression, make a good first impression. You are a lovable guy. Now, I'm not saying that my LinkedIn profile is by any means, a Mona Lisa, but I'm just going to show you mine real quick. And again, I'm a work in progress. I'm a work in progress online, just like I'm a work in progress offline, right? If you're not growing, you're rotting. There is no such thing as status quo in nature, okay? So my LinkedIn profile, what you see now, it might look a little bit different tomorrow. But, you're growing. You're always growing. So just a couple things. Number one, you want to have a smiling headshot. Really, Kev? Really? You're going to tell me to smile more? It's principle number 2 in Dale Carnegie's book, right? So smile. And what's with the dudes? I can't tell you how many men I meet as I run around the world that look like they've been sucking on a lemon since they were 5, right? I do boot camps all over the planet on other continents where I take every guy in the room at the end of my 4 or 5 hour boot camp and I line them up. I'm like, you're first, Jack. Get up against the wall. Smile. Click. Go. You, Frank, go. Right? Go back to frowning. Okay? So what we're doing is, I just want a smiling shot that I can put on your LinkedIn profile. Now, if your picture, Frank, not that I've seen it, is you in the thong doing a backflip off a high dive on Facebook. Busted. Totally appropriate for Facebook. You might want to change that on LinkedIn, okay? So you want to have a smiling headshot. You want to make sure that you absolutely modify your public profile URL and then put it into your email signature so every person that ever gets an email from you can also see that you're on LinkedIn and connect with you on LinkedIn. Make sense? I'm going through this fast. That's why I started by saying if I could ever help you, call me, I will help you, or email me. As we go down here, can I tell you that most people, you know what most people have in their summary? Nothing. In your summary, start populating it with keywords related to the search terms that people are typing in the search box up here when they're looking for people like you, because it increases your SEO. How many people in the room have a video on their LinkedIn profile? I should see probably 4 or 5 hands. That's normal, okay? How many people are completely unaware that you could put video on your LinkedIn profile? Wouldn't it make sense? You realize you're only limited by your imagination on this. Couldn't I take Annie at the end of this session and say, Andy, stand against the wall. Tell me what you do for a living, why that matters, and how that adds value to the people you want to do business with. Hey, my name's Annie, here's kind of what I do, and blah, 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 blah. Now I'm not only looking at the static text on her LinkedIn profile, I'm getting a feel for her body language, who she is. You're only limited by your imagination. Couldn't Annie, over the next 3 or 4 months, get her top 20% of her clients, and when she sees them, hey, Frank, thanks for being a client of mine. I really appreciate it. Would you mind just maybe 15, 20 seconds tell me why you chose to do business with me? Sure, Kev, I'll do that. Great. A month later, I had with Jackie, hey, Jackie, you give me like 15 seconds why? Couldn't I take 3 or 4 of these clips, hand it to a 15-year-old with tape on his glasses, give him a $20 bill? An hour later, I got a Scorsese production. I got a promo reel of people selling me. I don't even have to sell myself. They're all selling me because they're telling. You're only limited by your, I mean, if you had anything about, couldn't you just walk around Revenue North? Hey, my name's Kevin Knebl. I'm here at the Revenue North Conference. I'm going to jump into Mike O'Neill's session over here. There he is on stage. There's Mike. Hey, Mike. A little while later, oh, I'm going to be at Earl Kemper's session. You know, Earl's talking about removing self-limiting beliefs. He's awesome, right? Couldn't I just, now I got a Johnny on the spot video on my link. Couldn't you, in your email signature, underneath your contact information, say, please feel free to view my monthly industry update on my LinkedIn profile? They click the button, they're watching the video on your LinkedIn channel. So I'm just playing, see, it's not my goal here to turn you into a 10th level ninja sensei, wax on, wax off, Mr. Miyagi LinkedIn guy. My goal is to get you to ask questions. How could I use a tool to accomplish my business purposes? How could I spread the love? I call it spreading the love. How could I add value to people? How can I create a top-of-mind awareness, what I refer to as my high-tech, high-touch relationship marketing system? Slight plug, if you're interested in that, call me or email me later, okay? But how do we create a top-of-mind awareness strategy without ever being a stalker, spammer, or pest? Can I tell you how most people use social media and organizations? This is how they use it. Buy my product, 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 buy my product. The competition sucks, and don't forget to buy my product. Then they come to me and they go, how come the social media stuff doesn't work? And I say, you want me to tell you the truth? You want me to make you feel good? He said, no, tell me the truth. I said, because you're about as stimulating as a root canal. You ever go on a date with somebody and all they do is talk about themselves the whole time? You're nodding politely, but you're looking for the door. Can I tell you that if you were Hannibal Lecter or Jeffrey Dahmer before social media, you're just Hannibal Lecter or Jeffrey Dahmer on social media? Is this too strong? We can't outrun our character. That's good if you're a good person. As it says in the good book, it sucketh if you're a bad person. In a more and more interconnected world, it just serves you well to take your game up a notch and be a little nicer and add more value. This isn't shades of Big Brother or NSA recording the phone calls, but has anybody noticed over the last couple of years names like Gaddafi, Mubarak, Charlie Sheen, these train wrecks? They were train wrecks before social media. It's just social media amplifies it. It just serves you better to be better. Because in a more and more interconnected world, you literally can't outrun, as we learned with the NSA about a week ago. You literally can't outrun your character. So optimize your LinkedIn profile. I'm going to show you something real quick, and then we're going to start winding this down. I call this page on LinkedIn the Holy Grail. It's called the advanced search function, but I call it the Holy Grail. Anybody in the room old enough to remember days of like buying Hoover's lists and USA.net and stuff like that? By the way, how 20th century is that, right? So just let me, I refer to LinkedIn as a Mercedes S500 with low-profile Michelins and air-conditioned seats that keep your butt cool. Most people at best think they have a 73 rusted-out Pacer in their driveway. I don't know how you're going to drive this. Thank you for the mercy chuckle. I don't know how you're going to drive this, but let me just show you what the Mercedes is capable of. So as I go through this example, think about how you could potentially use this. Let's say I was just looking for people that are CEOs. I'm going to type CEO. I want to see current CEOs, not CEOs from back when the earth was cooling. I don't want to see them in Aberjardin or in the Bahamas, but I could if I wanted to. I don't want to see them in Toledo, but if I wanted to, I click look up and I type in Toledo and it gives me all the zip codes in Toledo, okay? So I want to see, I'm going to put in my home zip code, which is 80132. I live in Monument, Colorado. As I told you in the beginning of this presentation, 95% of my speaking engagements around the world are not in Colorado. So I normally have to explain to the crowd where Monument, Colorado is. I don't have to tell you where Monument, Colorado is. I live 50 miles south of Denver, 20 miles north of Colorado Springs in a town with a population of 8,900 people, okay? Let's just change this to CFO. I'm looking for CFOs, and I'm going to go 10 miles, 25 miles of my house. I haven't even shown you how if I just wanted to find them in the veterinary industry, or if I just wanted to find them in whatever industry, or if I just wanted to find the ones that went to Rutgers, or if I just wanted to find the ones that also like fly fishing, or if I just wanted to find the ones that like naked macrame, or whatever. I'm only limited by my imagination. So I'm just looking for any current CFOs within 25 miles of my house. I hit search, LinkedIn searches, because LinkedIn is a data friggin' base. Write that one down. If there's only one thing you remember from this talk, LinkedIn is a database, okay? Searches through 225 million people, and it pulls up 131 results. This would be a good place to pause for effect. Now, if this doesn't impress you, I want to remind you that you need a checkup from the neck up. Because if we had a time machine and I could take you back to 1985 and say, Annie, by the way, Annie wasn't even born in 1985, but Annie, I have a way that I could show you how to find your best prospects, but wait, there's more. I could also show you where they went to school, when they went to school, where they work, where they used to work, who their former coworkers are, who their current coworkers are, what they like to do on the weekend, whether they belong to Rotary, whether they like fly fishing. I can almost go down to eye color. In 1985, I didn't care if you worked for the CIA, the NSA, the EIEIO, or whatever it is you want. They would have locked you up and thought you were crazy. Here it is. And it's free. I hear there's a recession going on. Some of us choose not to participate. We couldn't have dreamt of a tool like this in our wildest dreams. And it's way better than what I'm showing you because I'm limited by time. I'm just scratching the tip of the iceberg. I haven't even shown you how once I find these 171 people, I hit Save Search, and it puts them into a separate folder. I haven't even shown you when somebody moves into 25 miles of my house tomorrow, LinkedIn automatically puts them in that Save Search and notifies me. I haven't even shown you how I can take notes on each of the people in LinkedIn, and only I see them in my own LinkedIn account, so now I'm using LinkedIn as a CRM tool. I haven't even shown you how LinkedIn will show you who you know that already knows the person that you want to get to know. Would you agree with me? Wouldn't you agree with me? It's a Tom Hopkins line. Wouldn't you agree with me that if I could show you how to find the people you want to do business with and show you how to find the people that know the people that you want to do business with, which, by the way, you already have all these hidden connections, you just don't know it. But the only person that's qualified to teach you how to extend an invitation to that person through the mutual connection is not a self-proclaimed social media guru or marketing and IT person. Because no offense, that ain't a social media skill. That is a networking and a sales skill, right? Because now it's not just, hey man, introduce me to him because I want to meet him. If you already know that I'm going to try and kiss on the first date, you ain't introducing me to your friends. Remember, I've been teaching networking since the mid-90s. You ever go to a networking event like this one we're at right now? I guarantee you there are people running around this networking event doing this. Hey, my name's Kevin. What's your name? Hey, who cares? Here's one of my cards. Let me tell you what a good card. Let me tell you what a good referral for me is, right? Then I got a leg up on her like a dog, right? You ever meet these people? You ever been this person? I mean, this place is full of them, right? They're not bad people. They're beautiful divine creations that God designed for greatness and just suck at networking, right? I call that kissing on the first date. Most people are not only kissing on the first date, they're using tongue, okay? And if they're using tongue offline, they're going to be using tongue online. Because just because they're on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter doesn't mean they're all of a sudden now going to become God's gift to networking. Now they're just somebody who sucks at networking with a LinkedIn account. Is this too blunt? This is the truth. The truth is simple, and the truth will set you free. That's why I'm telling you, spend a corresponding minute in your books like How to Win Friends and Influence People and Think and Grow Rich and The Magic of Thinking Big for every minute that you're learning social media. By the way, we get so fooled into thinking everything is going to be like it is. Can we just agree that the Flintstones were the Jetsons of their time? Weren't they? They were using the most advanced technology of their time in the Flintstones. We think this stuff is so cool, and it is cool. But do you realize that within the next couple of years, our kids and our grandkids are going to look at LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter and all this other stuff the way you and I look at space invaders and asteroids? So I'm going to wrap it up with this. I'm an 8-track player in the world of iPods. I'm such an 8-track player in the world of iPods that if you ever call me on my phone, you're actually not even talking to me on my phone. If you call me on my phone, I have an iPhone, which I love, but you're not talking to me on my iPhone. You're talking to me on this. This is not a prop, by the way. Go to Best Buy. This is 1995. I'm old school, baby. I grew up with a phone, okay? When I was a kid, my kids my age, the question was how long was the phone cord? Could it make it to the bathroom so you could close the door, right? I went to Best Buy and I bought this and the salesman tried to get me to buy the Bluetooth one that didn't have the cord. I said, I already have the one that doesn't have the cord, right? I want the friggin' cord, right? I can't tell you how many airports I walk through around the world dragging my bag behind me. Hey, Earl, what you doing, man? Hey, Earl, hey, hey, hang on, Earl, I got Andrea on the other call. I got a call waiting button on it right here. Like, I gotta go, I love you, man. Okay, see you, bye. Right? So as much as this new school stuff is great, and it is great, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and whatever they invent tomorrow, they're all great. But understand it's not about the tool. I'm 48 years old. My very first car in 1982 was a candy apple red, 4 on the floor Vet. It was a Chevette, but it was a Vet, okay? It's a piece of crap. Andy, that's a crappy car, okay? Okay, but in my car, I had an 8-track player. Don't even worry about what that is, okay? I had an 8-track player. Now, you can buy music, and a lot of times you get albums, and they're all good, but there's usually, you know, 1 or 2 crappy songs. I had a perfect album. Supertramp, Breakfast in America. On 8-track. A couple years later, I got a cassette deck. I got Supertramp, Breakfast in America on the cassette. Then I got a couple years later, I got an auto-reverse cassette, so I didn't have to pull it out and turn it around, put it back in. I was the man, all right? A couple years later, they started inventing CDs. I went down to the record store. Anybody remember those? I went down to the record store. I got Supertramp, Breakfast in America on CD. A couple years later, I got an in-dash CD. A couple years later, they started inventing iPhones. Ever see the movie Up in the Air with George Clooney? I'm George Clooney. I travel like George Clooney. I don't do the stuff in the movie that he does, and I certainly don't look like him. I look like a cross between Pee Wee Herman and Screech, okay? But when I wake up in the morning, most mornings, in a hotel room somewhere, and I look at the hotel room key to figure out what city I'm in, which, by the way, don't feel bad for me. I love what I do. I am blessed, okay? But when I do that, I travel a lot. So now, when I'm on, like in the next couple of days when I'm on a plane or wherever, think about me for a minute, and I guarantee you I'll be at 35,000 feet, either writing a blog post or talking to the person next to me or looking out the window at the clouds below me. But I guarantee you I've got earbuds in, I'm either got plugged into my iPhone or my MacBook Pro, and what do you think I'm listening to? Supertramp, Breakfast in America. So let me wrap it up with this. In that little story that I just shared with you there, what was the consistent thing? Was it the medium, or was it the media? Was it the 8-track player, the cassette deck, the auto-reverse cassette deck, the CD player, the in-dash CD player, the MP3, the iPhone? No. It was the music was the consistent. So yes, stay on top of the current technology, but don't be seduced into thinking it's about the technology. Play your music. Play your music. Your music is your ability to build, enhance, and enrich relationships. No matter what they invent, no matter how whiz-bang cool it ever becomes, it's the person that's always going to win is the person that understands at least a working knowledge of the current technology, but understands that it's always going to come back to the ability to build, enhance, and maintain relationships. I'm going to hang around for a couple minutes. If I can help you in any way, if you want to trade paper, if you're old school like me and you have business cards, if I could help you, I love you. I appreciate you coming in here. Thank you. God bless. Have a great day.